As you guys are probably aware by this point, the French tech tree in War Thunder is one of my favorites. Despite what many people think, France is a large developer and manufacturer for armored fighting vehicles, and the vehicles they do create are often pretty unique. Unfortunately, Gaijin doesn't seem too keen on adding a lot of French vehicles. The French tank line has a lot of gaps that could be filled, so I'm going to be talking about some vehicles that could fill those gaps. We'll be focusing more on top tier for this one, since that's where France has the most trouble, but if you guys want to see a low tier video as well, let me know. Also let me know if you disagree with my BR placements. I will try to avoid tanks I've talked about before, but I think at least one did slip into the list. But before we get into it, I want to talk about my sponsor, Apex Gaming. As you guys are well aware by this point, they make pre-built PCs, so if you want to upgrade but don't want to build your own PC, I would check them out. By using my username as a code, you can save 15% until October 23rd. Now let's get back to the video. France obviously has a serious lack of IFVs, so a good top tier option would be the EBRC. The EBRC is extremely new, only entering service this year, but that wouldn't be a first for Gaijin. It's a 6x6 wheeled recon vehicle, but is heavily armed. Its main weapon is the CT-40 cannon, built by CTA International. As the name implies, it fires case telescoped ammunition. It can fire a wide range of ammo, including APFS-DS. The Sabo round is quite powerful, penetrating at least 175mm at point blank range. Its fire rate is 200 RPM, the same fire rate as the Bushmaster. It also has Acheron MP missiles. To put it simply, these are basically French spike missiles. These would obviously be quite powerful, but Gaijin has said if they add spike-like missiles, they would only be fire and forget. So still quite powerful, but not as powerful as the missiles in the 2077 event. The EBRC carries 4 of these missiles in total. Depending on the package, its power to weight ratio can vary from 24.5 to 19.6. Top speed is 90 km per hour. I could see the EBRC being very strong, so I would probably put it at 11.0. Next is a top tier tank destroyer, the SK-105A3. I think I've talked about this one before, so I won't harp on it too much. Compared to the SK-105A2, it's not extremely different. The main takeaways are that it's stabilized, its armor is a bit better, and the gun is slightly better too. The reload time is the same, 4 seconds, and it still has 2nd gen thermals. My gut reaction is to put this thing at 9.7, because if you look at what it has relative to other light vehicles, it is very strong. The new Swedish CV90 Premium caused absolute mayhem at 9.3, and its fire rate wasn't as good. Granted, the SK-105 is slower. I think 9.7 would be alright. If it proves to be too strong, put it at 10.0. It really depends on what ammo it gets. Moving things down a bit, let's talk about the M3 VDA. France has huge gaps in its SPAA line, so this would help fix that. It is a 4x4 armored car with an anti-aircraft turret attached. The turret had 2 20mm cannons, HS-820s, which I believe is the R3T20's gun. So if you want to know how the guns would perform, there you go. High rate of fire, high velocity, and decent penetration for the caliber. Unlike the R3, the M3's ammunition situation is quite good. Each gun had 300 ready rounds, and the turret could be equipped with a radar. I think it'd be okay at 7.7, even if it does have radar. Since it's only got 20 mils, velocity drop-off will be quite bad, and the chassis isn't very good. It'd be a good rank 5 SPAA. Next, let's move on to a light tank. Well, not technically a tank, but you get what I mean. This is the Vextra 105 Late, and it could serve as a counterpart to vehicles like the Centauro, ZTL, and Radkampfwagen. This took the late version of the TML 105 turret and put on a Vextra IFV. It is stabilized and has thermal sights. If the old CV90 105 is anything to go off of, Gaijin would probably give it 2nd gen thermals. Mobility is pretty much what you'd expect from a wheeled vehicle. As for top speed, it's 120 km per hour. It doesn't have an autoloader. Its gun depression is subpar at 6 degrees, but I don't think it'd matter all that much. I'd put it at 9.7. And finally, a unique vehicle that make for a good premium, the RPX-90 with Mars turret. The RPX-90 was a variant of the RPX-6000 Scout car, which was a pretty high-performance vehicle. It had 26 horsepower per ton, and could travel at 110 km per hour. The RPX-90 had the TS-90 turret, the same turret used by the Mars 15 and ERC-90. On the variant we're interested in, this was swapped for a Mars turret. This was an oscillating turret with an autoloader, somewhat like the Striker MGS. The Mars turret would be interesting. It has a high fire rate, but low ready rack capacity. So it'd be a bit like a wheeled T114 with kinetic rounds. I think I'd place it at 8.7. It has a lot going for it, but it isn't stabilized, and the rounds aren't very good. That's pretty much all I've got to say. I tried to keep things pretty brief, but I hope it was somewhat informative. As always, if you guys have suggestions for video topics, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.